Good morning. Am I audible? Good morning. Good morning, all. So we are starting our reading club with the prayer.
भेद भाव अपने दिल से साफ कर सके, दोस्तों से भूल हो तो माफ कर सके, झूठ से बचे रहे, सच कदम भरे, दूसरों के जैसे पहले खुद को जय करे, हमको मन की शक्ति देना, मुश्किलें पड़े तो हम पर हित न कर्म कर, साथ दे तो धर्म का, चले तो धर्म पर, खुद पे हौसला रहे, बदी से ना डरे, दूसरों की जैसे पहले खुद को जय करे, हमको मन की शक्ति देना।
Good morning to all. We are giving tribute to a great master, Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, for wonderful divine science like homeopathy, and taught us dare to be wise. Seeking blessings from our Guru, Dr. Prafull Vijayakar, sirs, who have made this divine science easy with pleasing with the modern science and like Jai Hanuman, Jai Homeopathy, Om Vijay Karai Nama. So friends, we are reading the wisdom of Dr. Samuel Hahnemann from the Organon of Medicine 6th editions, and also we are reading the book Genetic Materia Medica by Dr. Prafull Vijayakar sir. So up till now in Organon of Medicines, we have covered the theoretical part, the understanding of the disease part, case taking part, as well as the understanding of the medicinal part. Now we are reading the understanding and applications of the medicinal part to the disease part. So continuing further in this aphorism, in yesterday's sessions we have learned that aphorism number 153 is the most important aphorism in practical. So the applications of our medicinal knowledge, we have to consider the SSUPS. That is what we are considering, the singular, uncommon, striking, peculiar symptoms or a characteristic symptoms. So in further understanding of this, we are reading the aphorism number 154. If the antitype, that means the remedy, which is constructed from the list of the symptoms of the most suitable medicines, contain those of the peculiar, uncommon, singular, and distinguishing characteristic symptoms, which are to be met with the disease to be cured in the greatest number and in the greatest similarity. That means the law of similarity. This medicine is the most appropriate homeopathic specific remedy for this morbid state or the disease. So that is what we call this homeopathic specific remedy for this state or the disease. If it be not one of very long standing, so if the disease of not long standing or a chronic character, in aphorism number 149, Master Hahnemann has said that if the disease of a long standing, it will take a longer time to heal. But if the disease of not long standing, very long standing, will generally be removed and extinguished by the first dose of it. So it is what Master Hahnemann is telling us, that only single dose or a single remedy is required to heal the patients, which if you are considering the PQRS of the patients and applying the law of similarity. So without any considerable disturbances. Now what Master Hahnemann wanted to us, that I must say that without any considerable disturbances, that means for in the employment of this most appropriate homeopathic remedy, it is only the symptoms of the medicine that correspond to the symptoms of the disease that are called into play, the former occupying the place of the latter, weaker in the organism. It means in sensations of the life principle and thereby annihilating them by overpowering them. But the other symptoms of the homeopathic medicines, which are often very numerous, being in no way applicable to the case of the disease in question, and are not called into play at all. The patient growing hourly better feels almost nothing of them at all, because the excessively minute dose requisite for the homeopathic use is much too weak to produce the other symptoms of the medicine that are not homeopathic to the case. In those parts of the body that are free from the disease and consequently can allow only the homeopathic symptom to act on a part of the organism that are already most irritated and excited by the similar symptoms of the disease, in order that the sick life principle may react only to similar but a stronger medicinal disease, whereby original malady is extinguished. So, what this aphorism telling us is that Master Hahnemann's wisdom telling us that without considerable disturbances. So we have seen that in our proving of Materia Medica, or proving of the remedy, we find many number of numerous symptoms in the patients. And when we apply the law of similia, we apply the law of similia to particular PQRS symptoms, 3, 4 symptoms of the patients, and we prescribe the medicine on the basis of this. And if this medicine has been constitutional similium, or which we called as the remedy specific to the state, then what happens? It only and only targeting the particular symptoms of the disease part and not producing the proving of that medicine. That is what Hahnemann wanted to convey in this. aphorism. So, because why it is not producing? Because the dose which we have given is very, very excessively minute in the dose, and that is specifically to use the for the homeopathic purpose. So this is what we Master Hanuman telling us that, and here he has mentioned that the modus operandi how our medicine works, as we have seen in aphorism number 26, that the weaker dynamic affections is permanently extinguished by the stronger one. So the medicine is stronger than the natural disease, and in the single dose it can cure. That is why our medicine is in the modern day what we call is a targeted nanotherapy. That means our medicine works specifically to the specific point of a targeted organ and the targeted receptor center, and then it can cure that particular process, not affecting the general or not affecting the whole demeanor of the person, and even not producing any side effect if it be applied in excessively minute dose. So this is what the wisdom of Master Kahneman telling us, and ultimately what we get is the original malady. That means the disease is extinguished permanently, and we get the optimum health. So that is what Master Hahnemann wisdom telling us from this aphorism. So we will continue the reading of our genetic materia medica by Dr. Prafull Vijayakar, sir. So up till now we have understood the man is made up of the genes, and we are considering the physical makeup, the general makeup, the mental makeup, and the disease makeup as genetic considerations of the man. And on the basis of that, we are reading the Materia Medica. What Dr. Vijayakar says that it is the Materia Medica we have to understood as a man. So, in further reading, we have read Baryta from yesterday. We have started the Baryta. The Baryta is one of the remedies. So, we have read the certain aspect of the physical point of and the mental aspect of a certain point. So, when we find the persons is in a short stature, when we find the persons having what we call as a baldness too early, and when we find the persons having a lack of confidence, when we find the persons does not give importance to the priorities. So these are the few key points which we have learned yesterday, and we are going further into this so that we can understand Baraita in a better sense. So what Dr. Vijay sir tell us that the identity of the Baryta is called as a misplace. So the one word represent everything. So this is not a new term coined by Dr. Vijay sir, but it is something that to understand the person in a very easy language and easy understanding, what Dr. Vijay sir made is the misplace. So everything in Baryta is misplaced. Now the same thing what Dr. Boger has written in his synoptic key. See, we have read hundreds of books of Materia Medica from the old master to the newer one. But what Kant writes in the para and what Boger writes in the one word. So this is what Boger writes one word, that the thoughtless childish behavior, and that is what something that the adult is representing their intellect into thoughtless childish behavior. So this is something that thoughtless childish behavior, that is what Dr. Vijayakar has coined in terms of the misplaced. So we have to understand misplaced in a depth so that we can apply our knowledge of Materia Medica or knowledge of the Baraita to our practice. And when we apply this into our practice, we get the wonderful results. So, what do we mean by misplaced? The misplaced means the inappropriate or the wrong. The thinking process is the wrong, the intellect is not proper, the growth is not proper, and therefore even the reaction to the situations are not proper. So this is very important. The thoughtless, childish behavior. So thinking is affected, the intellect is affected, the growth is affected. In order to survive, in the first line we have read that in order to survive, Baryta sacrificed their growth, and that is what this is the process. So the growth is not in proper sense, and ultimately, if the intellect is not proper, the thinking function is not proper, the reaction to the particular situations is also not proper. Going further, not proper or wrong means it is anything but normal. It could be either a side of the normal, it may be more or it may be less, but not normal. So this is something you have to apply into your practice. Now let us take the example of the courage of the Baryta, how the Baryta is courageous. So Baryta may be very, very timid in normal circumstances. There is a shyness and shying away when not required. On the other hand, the another Baryta can be very, very bold and foolishly courageous, a courage that could endanger his life, but he is blissfully unaware of it. Thus, the improper could means not much, not too much or too little, but not proper or normal that is expected at the particular age and maturity. So we have to understand the normalcy but according to the age also. So according to if the adult patient comes to your clinic and he is not behaving in a proper way, then you have to understand that this is something this is not appropriate to his age. So if it is a dull intellect, you have to understand that it might be a Baryta, might be a Baryta. So you have to think in this way. So the rubric that comes closest in our record that can describe misplace is indiscretions. So indiscretions is the meaning mentions in the software program of Kara is the indiscretion has been equated by the Kant in the circumspection, lack of and imprudence. It can thus be seen as applicable to those who lack the ability to assess what to say and what not to say according to the context. Such people tend to be insensitive to the moral code or a particular milieu. So this is what very important. मुझे क्या बोलना है, what context में बोलना है, that is what we have to understand in this manner. So indiscretion is one of the important word and the rubrics which is equated with the misplace. So this the misplace is our understanding, but the rubric which we think of is the indiscretions. Here the indiscretion cover only a part of the intellect, but misplace cover the indiscretions in all aspects of the intellect. So this is what Prafull Vijayakar sir has generalized this and apply this into practice so that it will help him as well as his all. We also have experience at the applications of this misplace in our practice, and that is what we get the wonderful result. So this should be neatly differentiated from the idiocy, complete mental retardation, insanity, mania, submit. The misplaced behavior in idiocy, insanity, and the drastic mental retardations cannot be called misplaced because there is no normalcy in functioning of that particular brain or the mind. Whereas in Baryta's misplacedness, there is shortness of the intelligence, childlike intelligence, which hold sway over the whole intellect. So this is what very important. We all know that the evolutions of the Baryta. So magnesium does not get the love, whereas Baryta does not have the intellect, so does not develop that independence. He is totally dependent on the parents or on the caretaker. So this is what something like that is a child like, and the intelligence also like a child. So childish behavior and everything. This adjective, misplaced, can be applied to everything that Baryta does, feel, senses, his reactions to the situation and his emotions also, etc. So when we apply this one word in the generalized form, then we have a certain situations comes into our practice so that we can say that this could be the Baryta personality. So misplaced priorities in religions, the misplaced courage, the misplaced anxiety, fears and apprehensions, misplaced attachment and affections, misplaced responses and answering, the misplaced understanding, misplaced behavior does not relate to the age, the misplaced confidence, misplaced assessment of their own ability, misplaced priority, importance and seriousness, misplaced actions in terms of indiscretions, and misplaced opinion. So these are the few examples. So we will go in detail about what is the misplaced priority in religions, what is the things. We'll see what is the things in this. So not only the mental sphere, but also in the physical sphere, everything is misplaced. So misplaced ages, the misplaced build or the physics, and the malfunctioning of the organ or underfunctioning of the organ. It is also called as the Baryta. So someone has asked one question: can organ misplaced be considered under Baryta? So what could be the organ misplaced? The questions you should put. So that means dextrocardia, when we the dextrocardia is the term when the organ has been changed, or a levocardia. So levocardia is normal, the heart in left sided, but dextrocardia. So that could not be a Baryta. You know, this is not a misplaced. Okay. But the malfunctioning or underfunctioning, because the growth has been compromised, and that is what we have to put into practice. So malfunctioning of the organ is underfunctioning the organ. It is called the misplaced. So we will see in our application so that we can get. So misplaced priority about the God and religions is, so this is what we have to. So there is always a fixed ideas about certain things make Baryta not understand the relative importance of the various aspects of their life. They do not easily understand what is more important. A certain thing that is fixed in their mind will always get maximum importance. So their whole world will revolve around it. If once it is imbibed in their brain that God and religion is the most important thing in life, then they will go all out and devote themselves to the religious and religious affairs. Their day-to-day world becomes secondary. So that is what very important. So the religions given some more priority and the day-to-day world becomes the secondary. So this is what something that the priority has been very important. So religious affections with no priority of the family, financial requirement, or a day-to-day their life affairs. So this is the very important aspect that he might be a writer or she might be a writer. So financial requirement for the family or importance of the money to sustain the family take a back seat. So whenever you find that the person is going to be religious but cannot help in the finance out of this newness and everything, you can think that he might be buried. Their only service becomes service to God and the religion. They may appear to us and even project themselves as the devotees, but of a full of admirations and venerations to the particular cult or a guru or a leader, irrespective of the fact and oblivious to the fact that whatever the guru or the cult leader is teaching or promoting is right or wrong. So if the Baraita is the follower, then he is always says his guru is right, even though he is teaching the wrong. So they are convinced that they have to follow a certain path, and this is the one. So that is why when we are thinking a perceptions level that the person goes into what we call not thinking by his head, and he is always following someone's advice, and that is what we think that the perception goes into head belongs to other. So this is something you have to think in. So they are always follow the certain path, and that is the one. Other constitutions that can take to the religions as a soul means and cling to God are Calcareas, Legacies, Hyoscyamus, Stramonium, Thuja, and Pulsatilla. Now you have to understand that how the Calcarea. So Calcarea claim to religious God and Guru because he wants a shelter cover which is totally out of insecurity. Stramonium and Hyoscyamus both cling to God because of the timidity and the fear and insecurities. The Thuja cling to God, religions, or Guru because here there is no fear of any injury to his body, which he feels the fragile as if made up of glass. And the pulsatilla clings to for what want of consolation. So this is what something you have to understand. And the lachesis want to explore the supernatural power of the god, and that's why they cling to the religions, because legacies again the represent the snake, and the snake is the representations of the religious symbol. Though Baryta is not present in the repertory under the fixed idea, the misplaced idea of the putting God before family makes him the religious. So this is something what you have to understand. So for him, the family is the second priority, whereas religion is the first priority. So that is what you have to think of this. This is misplaced in religious. Now the second point, the misplaced in the courage. So we know the courage is the boldness, it is the ability to face the danger, and this ability to face the dangerous situation stems out of the various factors. So experience in certain field and the knowledge of that field or the situations gives one the confidence and hence the courage to tackle such situations. This is purely soric courage. The technique to tackle or the grave situation is known, and hence the pros and cons of the situation are also understood by the persons to give rise to the ability, and hence the courage is. The fire brigade men and the soldier in the army are example of it. Then there is this courage which is blind courage or motivated by the desire to achieve. The goal is important for the individual and that should be achieved at any cost, even if it means sacrifice one's life. This courage is called as the syphilitic courage. Here, the person is aware of the consequences. It may be destructive either way, yet he accepts it for the sake of achievement for his goal. The religious fanatics, the terrorist organizations, and those who have do or die attitude all exhibit a syphilitic courage. Then there is a psychosyphilitic courage. This seems to be reflected as a courage, but actually is a foolishness. The psychosis less gives rise to dwarfing of the ability to think and inability to understand the gravity of the situation. This is the hallmark of an underdeveloped brains or a child brains. If a child or infant jump from the height that may cause harm to him, we may excuse him. This is because we know that his intelligence at this age does not allow him to understand the consequences. A 1-year-old child getting his head hand burnt by touching a hot iron or putting his hand in a boiling water is understood as normal as the child in the process of learning. But the years later, as this child grows into full-fledged adult, and if he has not learned from such experience and still commit the same mistake, then we call it either childishness or a foolishness. And this is what exactly happened in Baryta. So Baryta exhibit the foolish courage, may stem out of the less understanding of or comprehensions and may lead to the destructions of the self or the destructions of the things around. This is called as the psychosyphilitic. So the rubric we can think of is the foolish behavior or the indiscretions. This attitude that seems to be courageous may also be termed as indiscretions. Running or crossing a railway line or a road full of the fast-moving traffic or in front of the fast-moving vehicle at leisure, not gauging the speed of the vehicle coming towards you is a classical example of the Baryta misplaced courage. So there is one video I think this is something I will share in a group so that you can understand that this is what Baryta is. So this is the classical example. You are the classical example of the Baryta's misplaced. The jumping into troubled water or a deep sea without a proper knowledge of the swimming just to imitate someone else or to show off as a good swimmer or to impress someone may cost Baryta his own life. But he is blissfully unaware of the consequences while exhibiting this fact of the courage. Without adequate knowledge of handling snakes or without handling snake, a Baryta may take the bold step of trying to catch the snake by head just to show I am not afraid or I am courageous. This can be called as a misplaced courage or indiscreet courage that might cause harm to him and others. So this is what you have to understand. So you have to judge the person the courage, and that is what he, if he understood the consequences, then he can rule out Baryta. But if he cannot, then he can rule in the Baryta. The third point, the misplaced or a disproportionate anxiety, fears, and apprehension. So we all know that the all remedy having a soaring trait of the anxiety. So every person, when he faces a difficulties or a new situations, become anxious. That is a soaring trait. What will happen next in this situation is a concern when he first faces it. He has so many different queries in mind. If he is driving a car, he will ask himself, will I be able to apply the brake in time? What if I knock down someone who comes in my way? Will I be able to change the gear and maneuver the car through the traffic? And what if I can't? What if a tire puncture? What if I get stranded alone somewhere? So this is something the anxiety lurking in the mind. Such anxious thoughts help one to foresee and be warned of a dangers, making one cautious. So anxious thought shows that one is not in a control of the situation. This anxious thought normally vanishes as one gets accustomed to the situation or learns to control the situation. So people who do not get over it start fearing it. Anxiety, when it gets permanent or the solidified, becomes the fear. So fear is the solidifications of the anxiety. Whether it is anxiety or a fear, it is to be optimum. So optimum is the normal. So this normal or optimum anxiety or a fear is only a defense in order to help an individual to fight his way through the difficulties. So this is a normal response. When it happens, when it hampers the progress of the individual, it becomes pathological. So when this anxiety or a fear hampers the progress of the individual, it is called the pathological. So in Baryta, it is pathological. The anxiety or fear can be either too much or not there at all. Both these are abnormal. So the rubric we have the anxiety about trifles, fear, happen something will, and cautious, anxious. So what to be anxious about and how much to be anxious or fearful about is also normally determined by the brain. But in Baryta, the brain or the intelligence does not grow with the age. This causes them to be excessively anxious or the fearless. When such anxiety is not normal for the age, we can call it as a misplaced. By misplaced anxiety, we mean that the Baryta gives unnecessary importance to the thing that is not as important as compared to the others to which they do not give importance at all. So, for example, a congestive cardiac failure patient was put to the bed rest because slightest exertion caused him dyspnea. He was a doctor by profession, knowing very well the consequence of the disease. Despite all this, his main focus was on hyperacidity and the constipation. So, again, this is what the anxiety not related to the cardiac but related to the minor ailment, and that is called the misplaced anxiety. So the misplaced anxiety of Baryta can also be seen in the patient who place too much importance to the minor element and the less important to the major one that may be dangerous to his life or her life, as mentioned before. So this is what you have to understand in clinic. So I must remind one movie scene, that is the scene of the Ferrari ki Sawari. So, what is the Ferrari ki Sawari movie scene? One fine day, the Sarman Joshi, the actor in that movie, is drove a bike, and behind that his son was sitting. So he crossed the signal, and there is no policeman is there. So he went to the next signal. He went to the traffic police, and he said that I have crossed the signal and you must find me. So this is what something that is again the anxiety, and what he shows that he wanted to impart the good impression on his children so that he can learn. So out of this over honesty, out of this what we called as the over cautiousness, he goes into a state of indiscretion, and that is also a Baryta personality is. So this is something is a misplacedness. Misplaced love, attachment, and the affections. Baryta can show undue love and affection to the animals. They appear to be animal lover. So far, so good. There is nothing wrong about loving animal. Even carcinosin, chocolate, natrum, and many other constitutions have love for animals and exhibit it by looking after them or feeding them. Here, the Baryta goes overboard doing things for an animal or the insect. So, the example of the patient treated a 40 years old man was treated for the chronic liver problem with the recurrent attack of the appendicitis. He was a medium build with the fast receding hairlines. He happened to be working for the sharebroking company. This chilly, obstinate, angry persons working with the finance failed to respond favorably to many constitutional drugs. He was very intelligent in the finance field. He has advised many on how to become a millionaire, but he himself was barely having any sound investment. On a retake history, his wife and his sister elaborate on his love for a small living things on this earth, except for the people at home or any relatives. This peculiar behavior of his drew attention. The people, especially distant relatives from his native place, come down for the treatment of the cancer to the Mumbai, and he was forced to help them. He always complained about their nuisance. As against this, when he would go to the park for morning walk, he would be on a constant lookout for the small caterpillars, centipedes, and the millipedes on the ground. And when he would spot one, he would carefully pick it on a leaf and put it away where no man would trample over it. Before putting it away, he would feed it with a piece of the biscuit. This is not an isolated case of oversympathy. The wife fretted and fumes. The wife mentioned about another incident. On one instant, a pigeon laid an egg in a small plant pot that was on the window sill of our kitchen. He was so excited and anxious that he raised a hue and cry in the house to warn all the members of the family not to water the plant as the egg would get soaked in the water and the embryo within would die. The life is very important even when it is not born, he insisted. When his wife drew his attention that this would kill her little plant, he came up with the brilliant idea. He put a straw pipette in the pot so that the water could be applied to the root only without affecting the egg. Now he said both the eggs and plant will survive. So this is what some intelligence is there. Another incident where he preferred to skip his work in order to save a bird's life was narrated by his sister and wife, which helped to confirm that his anxiety for health of the insect, bird, and eggs, and not for the humans who were related to him, showed his misplaced attachment, love, and affection. His sympathy was not uniform for all living things alive. He did not care for the humans who were sick, but was concerned about the insect, bird, eggs, etc. A single dose of Baryta completely cured him of his chronic problem, bringing back his suppressed tendency to cold and finally exteriorizations into eruptions on the skin. So this is what something after so many prescriptions we cannot understand how this person is, and that is what you have to think like this. Only if the remedy is right, the law of direction of cure will seen and the reversal of symptoms and the restorations of the health will follow the disappearance of the trouble complaint. As for his mental conditions, we can expect the misplaced behavior to reduce in intensity but not completely disappear because it is in genes. So this is what we have to make it. We can make a pathology to become a physiological, but we cannot change the physiology to nullify it. So this is what homeopathic medicine temper down the pathological, that means the disease expression of the mind, but cannot change the genetic code. The love, clinging love, the Baryta cannot live and love on its own due to indecisiveness. The insecurity with no confidence in oneself make a Baryta cling to the mother or a spouse So indecisiveness produces a lack of confidence. He is convinced that he will never be able to do things desired for him. Hence, he wants other to carry him. That's what carry desire to be. This is where the rubric of carried desire to be or delusion legs are cut off, or the clinging to mother or clinging to person or the furniture comes into pictures. So this is what Baryta is clinging to love. The fifth point, the misplaced response and the answering. The patient, when asked his number on coming to the clinic, implying his case registration number, answer by giving his bank account number or his driving license number. This question asked does not register immediately, and the question has to be elaborated. So this is what you have to. So any a time, many a time, the person do mistakes by giving the answer. You can think that his reasoning and his processing unit is not working properly. So you can think of Baryta in that cases also. Also, as elaborated previously, the patient who answers wrongly or are confused while answering or having have to be asked the same question two or three times, that too by reframing it for them to understand. So this is also in yesterday's session we have read that the persons cannot understand the things, and we have to frame the questions for three, four times to make him understand. Then also you can think that his processing unit is not working and he might be a variety. The misplaced understanding. So the example what sir has given that the lady came with the carcinoma lung. This lady was very good in study. As a child, she would stay in the joint family that constitutes almost 20 people as in a common in Indian society. To our surprise, she said that she did not know who her father and mother were till the day she got married. She considered her grandfather and grandmother as her parents, and in her mind, her mother was her sister in law. This was something we could not believe, and we spent half an hour confirming this fact. This behavior was something that was not expected of an intelligent child who is standing first in the class. This was only book intelligence. When asked how come you didn't ever even know your father's name, she responded that she just did not know it. This showed that intelligence and comprehension was falling short. So many a time you have the student or the children who can mug up the answers and everything, but when you twist the questions and ask the same questions with the twisting, he cannot answer. So again, he can be a barita. The simillimum, a single dose of Baryta given to this lady brought about a drastic change. The diplopia, giddiness, and the headache symptoms of the metastasis of the brain vanished within 15 days, and the patients progressed toward the cure. So fast is the actions of the homeopathic remedy if prescribed correctly on the genetic rate. The misplaced behavior, which does not relate to the age. So an elderly person's laughing unnecessarily in a wrong context or a jumping like a child, not out of the vivaciousness but out of the childishness, you can think of this is the Baryta. So speaking like a child, behaving like a child, or reacting like a child. So we have the rubric of childish and childish behavior in old people. The misplaced confidence or the misplaced assessment of their own abilities. So many a time the person have to assess their ability also. So misplaced confidence could be either less of it or more of it in a given situation. There are some people who, without proper understanding of the situation, take a decision that put them in the trouble. The confidence is a blind and not reason based. It amounts to the foolish confidence. This is typical Baryta confidence, where despite not knowing driving properly, a person might venture to drive on a steep hill and then find it difficult to maneuver the car. The Baryta have inept attribute of finding trouble because of foolish courage and confidence. The first thing patient who came to us for the treatment was said, the doctor, I cannot make a smaller decision. I don't know what to do. If I have to buy a scale costing 3 rupees or a pencil for the 2 rupees, I have to take a permission from my mother. father. If I have a fight with my friend over a scale, I telephone my father to ask whether I should share my scale with my friends or should I ignore her. If someone abuses me in the college, I call my father to ask him what should I say to reply to her. Recently, she went to fill petrol in her bike at a usual petrol pump, but the pump was closed for a maintenance, so she called her father and asked whether it would be safe to get petrol from another pump. When her father said yes, she asked whether she should ask some rickshaw driver where the nearest petrol pump was. This shows that she was totally dependent on others for the minute decision. This is what irresolutions in decisions. Misplaced priorities, importance, and the seriousness. There may be a wrong priority with respect to the health, work, or the home, as already elaborated. And the misplaced actions, the indiscretions. For example, the young girl aged 11 years was brought with the leukodystrophies. The white matter was getting damaged, causing loss of balance on the right side. If her parents had a fight, she would go and tell any outsider that her parents had fought. Once her grandfather brought 25,000 rupees home and kept it in the cupboard. The next day, when a localite came to their house, she told him, "You know what? My grandfather kept 25,000 rupees in that cupboard yesterday." So, this is again open hearted loquacity. In open-hearted loquacity, there is a Bovista and there might be Hyoscyamus and Baryta carb also. So you can think of that the persons can having this. There is a Bovista is only in open-hearted loquacity. There is no Baryta, but you can think that Baryta can do like this. One day, her parents were criticizing the neighbor. The next day, she told the neighbor everything when he came to their house. Her indiscretion was seen at so many places. So, this is what something you have to understand. He cannot or she cannot understand what to ask and what to say and what not to say. Another example, if one is anxious about money, his anxiety for money should be present in all situations. But Barata are the people who may be anxious to earn and save from the fear of poverty, but can foolishly throw away a large chunk of it in order to fulfill his desire. If a man who is fighting to make a two-end meet and run a family in a paltry income takes a loan from the bank to buy a television or go for a holiday or buys an expensive car, it is not a wise thinking. It is definitely a misplaced. The people who remain in debt for a nonsensical reason may be buried. So this is what very important thinking. The people who remain in debt for a nonsensical reason may be Baryta. If Baryta get money, they will spend it in buying new gadgets for recreations rather than repaying the loan. All this is solely because their brain does not allow them to select the proper priority. Even in money priority, it is something we have to think of the Baryta when they are having nonsensical reason. The misplaced opinion, a girl with the leukemia. These are the few examples what Sir has encountered in his clinical practice with the result with the Baryta. So Sir has put everything into it. A girl with the leukemia did not want to get married because her sister had got married and had some difficulties in understanding her in-laws. The girl formed the opinion that all the husbands are bad and all marriages are unsuccessful. So again, when we think like this, we can think like presumptuous. But presumptuous has something which having a experience before, and then they goes into presumptuous. While the Baryta has making the opinion out of that no experience is there, that all are same. So this is something you have to think in the case taking the misplaced opinion, and on the basis of Sir has prescribed the remedy. The fact that later on her sister was happy, had delivered two children, and had no problem anymore did not change her opinion. If Baraita don't like certain people, No rational argument will make them change their mind. So this is very important. Even after everything was fine, their opinion remained the same. So once it is imbibed in the brain, it remains forever. So they are very friendly with new people, but their near ones they are not friendly with. The reason is that the old people have formed an opinion about her which she finds difficult to face. She feels they laugh at her or look down upon her, whereas with new people she is very comfortable since they have not formed any opinion about her. So again, this is something you have to think of. Not only in the mental sphere, but also in the physical sphere, everything is misplaced. The misplaced concept of the Baryta is not limited to the mind only. It is a genetic code that is responsible for the characteristic and the trait that represent both the mind and the body. So mind and body talk the same language, and hence the true homeopath practicing the right homeopathy will see the same concept at the mental as well as the physical level. The misplacedness will be obvious at the physical level too in Baryta, giving rise to the misplaced age. So these are the few things. Example, the young people look old or the old people look younger, vice versa. When you find the 70 years old people look like the 50 or 40 years man, then you can think of he might be a Baryta. Or a young people of the 20 or a 30 years people look like aged like a 50 years or a 55 years, you can think like a Baryta. It is difficult to gauge the age of the Baryta. At the age of 2025, the Baryta, especially Baryta, start looking like a 40 years old. A fast receding hairline causes a frank glaring frontal baldness in the Baryta cab and Baryta mold. So older looking infants and the children with the wrinkles on the face or the children who look thin, scrawny and older than their age with a big abdomen can also be a Baryta. On the other hand, the 50 years old lady with a short stature looking younger than her age as if still in the 30s can also be a Baryta. This is called hypopsychosis. Female looks childishly sweet, behave immaturely, are naive and affectionate, and proceed to a late menopause well beyond the age of 50. So this is something you can think of the Baryta at physical level. A 45 years old, short stature, middle aged persons look like a 60 years old with a wrinkling of the face, balding, fallen teeth, etc. are heading toward the early renal failure with hypertension. This is seen in Barytas who are predominantly syphilitic in process. Or as vice versa, the 75 years old looks and feels like a 37 years old if he is a Baryta. So this is what the misplaced age. Thus, the Baryta can look prematurely old or immaturely young to their age. So old people look younger to their age. So this is very important. So by looking, you can think of the Baryta. Another point at the physical point is a misplaced age. The dwarfishness, the growth affected disorders of, and development arrested are the few rubrics which is there in the repertory. So miasm or the genetic process rules the constitutions. The influence of the hypopsychosis or psychosis less makes a Baryta shorter than other of the same age. Thus, the dwarf children can draw our attention to this remedy, especially in the psychotic cases or disease. On the other hand, hyperpsychosis process at the genetic level can produce overgrown Baryta as well. So there is two process at the psychotic level. One is psychosis excess or psychosis less. Most of time you can find the psychosis less in the Baryta, but there are few exceptions that you can find the overgrown Baryta also. And the question is malfunctioning of the organs. So the underfunctioning of the organ can be vague indications of the Baryta only if the mind and body correspond to the features of the Baryta. Something to ponder upon. It is worthwhile to try and understand the behavior of the cells in the pathological changes that occurs in the malignancy. The undifferentiated cells in the cancer could owe their origin to the indecisiveness like Baryta at the genetic level. So you can think the rubric, there is atrophy, the bone complaint, general brittles, the cretinism, the rachitis, rickets, sluggishness of the body, wound heal slow. These are the few that is under functioning of organs and the tissues or the cells. So this is something you have to think of. And in one case, I had took the mind of pathology. This is what my experience from the sir's understanding that someone has asked the questions that when to take if it is a misplaced organs or you have to consider Baryta. But I have not considered the Baryta in the case. I have treating a case of dermoid cyst in the spinal column in the spine, and he had operated this twice, and after the operations nothing has been happened. Again the dermoid cyst is developing and it remains same, and after that he loses his control over the bladder and stool, and he had a constipation, and he used to apply enema daily to pass stool. So this was the case. I am treating this case since long. So initially I prescribed on the basis of spinal tumor, the lachesis. Then I prescribed the tarantula, but I did not get result within 1.5 years. Nothing has been changed. The next year the MRI did. The MRI revealed the same tumor remained the same. Then I understood what is the dermoid cyst and what could be the process. So, on understanding of this dermoid cyst, the dermoid cyst is the cyst which composed of the dermal layer or the connective tissues into it. So, the cyst consists of the dermis, cyst consists of the hair, cyst consists of the debris, and cyst consists of some mesodermal organs, tissues, and the origin. So this is what something that the all the tissue become mixed somewhere and it become a cyst. So cyst shows the psychosis. That means we need to find out the insecure constitutions from the patients and having the something from what we call as uh, insecurity from behind. So on the basis of that, I prescribe hyoscyamus to that patient also, madorinum in intercurrent, but did not help. So by understanding the pathology, and the pathology is that see we all know that the cells and the cell has the community and community make the tissue. So every tissue and the cells has their own identity and intelligence that we have to make the community of the same cells. But when you make a cyst and you cannot understand the every cells are mixed up, and that is what we call as the misplaced things. So all the cells are misplaced into one cyst, and that is what the dermoid cyst is. So in that dermoid cyst, I took the rubric indiscretions as the mind of pathology, and on the basis of that, I prescribed the remedy was calcarea carb. And after giving Calcarea carb, his bladder control has been improved drastically, and now he can control, and even the frequency of enema has been reduced to certain extent. Previously, he always come to my clinic and he used to lie down on the couch and he giving his sleep by this way. But nowadays he can sit properly and he does not have the numbness and neurological symptoms of the legs due to the spinal compressions. So this is something you have to understand that the indiscretions I have applied in this mind of pathology in case of dermoid cyst. Hope you understood. This is my clinical experience and I am applying into it. So it will help you to understand that in indiscretions is something that at the level of cell. So every cell has their community, their own cell, their own identity has to be there. But here in description that the dermoid cyst, the cell has mixed, all are different. Even though mesodermal origin, there is a hair, there is a skin, there is a tooth, or there is something which we called as a mesodermal tissue. So all the tissue become mixed somewhere into one cyst. That's why I took indiscretions as the because the cell cannot understand what it is. This is what my own understanding, and on the basis of that mind of pathology, I apply this rubric in this case of spinal tumor. Okay, still the patient is with me, and still the treatment is going on with Calcaria. He can improve, but still I am not showing this case to you. But this is what my understanding I am applying into practice. So I am sharing my understanding with all of you. Okay, and there is one rubric in our repertory. There is a cyst behind the neck, and that is what the remedy is Baryta cup. But in that case, I had not applied Baryta cup to that patient. So if in future I will go with the reports, and if report does not show any changes, then we will think of another remedy for this patient. So this is what something that, but the indiscretion is a pathological mind of pathological symptoms for the dermoids, which I consider in my case. Hope you can understood this. Even though in autoimmunity, you can think of indiscretions because our immunity is misdirected or misplaced toward the self. That's why the indiscretions is one of the pathological intellectual rubric for autoimmunity. So you can directly enter through it as indiscretions. This is apart from our Baryta knowledge. So hope you enjoy reading. We will continue this the reading from tomorrow, the genetic reflections of the Baryta. So how Baryta genetically and miasmatically reflect. So we will continue from tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you so much for sessions. So we will conclude the day today. Thank you all.